Live from CNN London, this is World Business Today with John Defterios.
3 months and out, Turkey's Prime Minister Mesut Yilmaz resigning today. The government had been on the brink of collapse for days after former Prime Minister Tansu Çiller withdrew her party support from the government coalition. Now Turkey's president must decide who will try and form the next government. The pro-Islamic party, the biggest party in parliament, demanding the right to govern Turkey. Well, Turkish stocks falling sharply in the morning on news the Prime Minister would resign, then rallied sharply after the resignation, closing the day up nearly 2.5%. Turkish bonds weakened, but the lira held steady against the dollar. And joining us now to talk about the latest developments in Turkey is Miranda Xafa, senior economist at Solomon Brothers in London. First of all, given the animosity between these two leaders, it's not surprising that the government fell. But how likely is it that the pro-Islamic party could rule Turkey?
I think there is a 50-50 chance now because, as you said, they are the biggest party in parliament. But there is strong opposition from various quarters to having them come into government. Turkey has always been a secular state, and they threaten to change that, so many people don't like that. The other possibility is that we might see a new coalition between Motherland and True Path, the two center-right parties, under different leaders.
Well, if there were different leaders for the center-right, do you think they could bury their differences and move forward?
If there were different leaders, I'm sure that's the case because there are very few ideological differences between the two parties. However, if they cannot find the modus vivendi, then the president must dissolve parliament and call a new election.
Now, if that were the case, I mean, they have 45 days to try and form a government. If they had to call for new elections, do you think the markets would be extremely nervous? Markets are never dull in Turkey to begin with.
That they are quite volatile. But the thing is, during the summer months, Turkey benefits from seasonally low inflation and from an inflow of foreign exchange receipts from tourism. So during the summer months, they can keep going for a while. But come September, they will face lower foreign exchange receipts, higher external debt service payments, and huge rollovers on the domestic treasury bill market. So it's important that they get their act together before then.
And given the problems you've just said, whoever comes in will have to be a very strong government, won't it?
Absolutely, because what happened with the 94-95 stabilization program is that it relied on one-off taxes and civil service pay cuts, but by their nature, these measures are not sustainable. So now they need to do structural reforms.
What sort of structural reforms do they need to do, and can they do them?
First of all, privatization and closure of state economic enterprises that are unprofitable to both increase efficiency and raise revenue. And secondly, pension reform. In Turkey, you can retire at 40 with a full pension, so they need to introduce a minimum retirement age and private pension funds to bring benefits closer to contributions.
Now, if they don't make these structural changes, could we be facing another currency crisis, the likes of which we saw in early '94?
They are now in a stronger position than they were in '94. Reserves are higher, the exchange rate is more competitive, and the government is finally more willing to accept market-determined interest rates. Having said that, they also have a higher level of domestic debt, which compounds very rapidly at current interest rates of about 125%.
Miranda, as always, thank you for being here.
Thank you very much.